Hey, folks, took us a minute, but here we are, live for another edition of the Michigan Football Breakdown Preview Edition. And Gorgeous took a little more time to get gorgeous this today. Is that about right, Al?
No, see, I'm always looking pretty good. Jiminy Christmas, the chicks have been all over me lately. I had 3 women put me on their to-do list. Can you believe that? Holy smoke. This gets
That's what
better
took you
every
so
day.
long. That's
Huh?
what took you so long. So I got to give Al credit. A lot of troubleshooting, and I wasn't there to push the buttons, push the ones and twos, but Al was able to get to the right setting, get to the right browser, get in the room because he knew he had to get you
Oh,
this
yeah, no question.
breakdown of
Yeah.
Alabama. Because Al, here's the thing. I don't know if you noticed this. I've obviously been tapped out of the sports world for the better part of I don't know about nine days now. That I've been out of it, kind of paying attention here and there, and there just seems to be a lot of folks writing Michigan off in this game.
Oh,
And now that you've had a chance to really dissect
Sam.
Alabama, I want to know if you think there's a good reason as to
Why,
why.
why would they want to write Michigan off? I don't get that one. I mean, you got a matchup here. You got a good matchup. This is going to be a good football game. I think it'll be challenging as hell. I've perused these videos. Goodness gracious, I've watched them. And going into it, I knew Alabama pretty well to start with because I've had a lot of experience coaching against Saban and just watching their team. But I think this matchup's pretty good, and for a lot of reasons. Now they're good at a lot of spots. Sam, defensively, they got 2 good corners.
Mm-hmm.
With McKinsky. I shouldn't say his last name because everybody calls him Kool Aid. I guess
Yeah,
he's
just
pretty
call him man
good.
Kool-Aid.
Yeah, you man Kool Aid. He's good. He's tough. And then Terry Arnold, the other one's not bad either. But they work Arnold a little more than they work Kool Aid. I've the 3 games to watch to me. I mean, I watched a bunch of games, but if you're gonna watch them and see matchups, you want to watch Georgia, you want to watch Auburn, who played great against them and should have beat them, and Texas. So you get an early game and you get a couple late games,
Mm-hmm.
and some of their personnel has slightly changed, but not much. Not much.
Gotcha.
Pretty much the same dudes. You got Dallas Carter still rushing off that edge, raising hell, and
Mm-hmm.
and Braswell, the other guy, isn't bad either. I mean, he's not too shabby either. So, and the 2 corners are pretty much playing. The guy that's a little bit of a surprise is the freshman kid, Caleb Downs, number 2. Now,
Mm-hmm.
he is what they did with him is they kind of switched as the year went on. Early on, they were playing him back. They're more deep third, quarters type deal. But now they got him a little more in the box. He's not as good a cover guy as Malachi Moore is. So they got him a little bit more down in the box. He plays run real well. So, but he's a good player. And then, obviously the 2 I mentioned, and then Damani Lawson, the inside linebacker, is probably their best linebacker of the 3. And up front, their front is good, but it's not quite as good as it's been in terms of the inside dudes. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Otis, I believe, is one of them, and Payne plays in there as a backup nose guard. They're pretty good. I mean, they're not bad anywhere. Let's be real, okay? But it's not, to me, the best Alabama team of the best of the last few years. So there's some opportunities here. Now, you want me to preview them a little bit in terms of front?
So let's set the table because
Okay.
I wanna get into what they are conceptually. You kind of touched on this before. What's their base scheme? What makes them tough? And then we'll get into vulnerabilities and you'll talk about the specifics
Yeah.
of the matchup. But
Yes.
folks, listen, so we got the breakdown with Al right now, where he'll break down the Alabama defense versus the Michigan offense. And then we're gonna do the same thing with Vance coming up in about an hour, where he takes a look at the Alabama offense versus the Michigan defense. Now, there probably, if things go according to plan, there will not be a film study coming off of this. We will do a breakdown coming off of this, and then we will hopefully, if things go according to plan, we'll be doing a film study after the national championship game. So our goal is to bring that to you. We're going to be on the move. I'm heading to Pasadena tomorrow. I had some important family time here over the last 9 or so days. That's been very, very important. You kind of realize the importance of that, even more so. in trying times. So made a commitment to be around and was present in the places I need to be present. Now it's time to get back to work. And so as far as the film studies are concerned, so we're in the last 3 days of our Fund the Film Study campaign on PayPal. So I'm going to put that in the comment section. I'm going to put it in the description because we want to be able to do the film studies. Hell, I'm going to try to get Vance and Al to the national championship game. We're going to try to make this happen, right? Don't know if we can. Vance said, I'm going to go. We're going to see if we can make it happen, but click that link in the comment section. Click that link in the description. I'll put it in the comment section or in the chat section as well. You can help fund the film study so we can get the last couple of film studies in to reflect upon this semifinal game and hopefully the national championship game as well. So, Al, let's dive right in, though, and talk about the Bama scheme. And you called it, what did you call it? Like a match 3 or 3 match?
Well, they got a couple different, almost everything they do is match coverage. I don't care what they're in. But the starting point for Alabama, like first day of spring football, if you come in as a freshman, is what they call Ripley's 3 match, which is a cover 3 if you give them certain routes. Understand? Mm-hmm. I think Saban and Belichick developed this coverage years back when they were getting beat with 4 vertical routes against a 3 deep zone, which is, as we've talked about several, that's very vulnerable, right? So they got where they don't want to have to deal with that anymore. So they took their inside guys and they matched your number 2 receiver. If your receiver ran through on a vertical route, he would carry him, and then the outside corner, if the route went more than 5 yards, played him man to man. Okay, so if the inside receiver ran into the flat or crossed or didn't threaten vertical, then it just would be a basic 3 deep zone. That's kind of the way it works. Now, there's a lot of bells and whistles in there that go beyond what I'm talking about, but it is a hybrid coverage between a cover 3, half cover 3, and half cover 1 or man free. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they worked out all the run support with that. And that was their starting point if they wanted to play a 1 high defense. Okay. You with me so far?
With you so far.
Okay. But that really is, that's a thing they do. But the real thing they do is their cover 7, which is their match quarters. Okay. Which is cover 4, quarters covers, cover 4. And then what they do is they always want to get 4 dudes covering 3 dudes to the field side if you put 3 guys over there or whatever, right? And they want to get 3 dudes covering 2 dudes to the boundary. You with me? Mm-hmm. So they got all kinds of ways to do that. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. And it all depends on what, who the matchups are, who your guys are, who their guys are, okay? And so what they'll do is they'll either lock that corner on, what they call a MEG, man everywhere you go, okay? You understand what I'm saying? They call it MEG. And then if they call MOD, M-O-D, that means man on demand, which means the corner will only cover if certain things happen with the receiver. He won't necessarily chase him all over the field. He may pass him off to somebody inside and then try and double your number 2 receiver. They got all these little deals within their cover 8. Now, if you look at the way, or cover 7, I should say, between the 2 sides, they have a field side and they got a boundary side in their quarters. They make their calls independently, Sam. They're independent. One side may have called stubby, which will be the 3-man side's doing this. And the other side may call cone, which means that, and I'm not, I'm just giving you the names they use. The boundary side may be doing this, and it just depends. Like, I'll give you an example. If you offset Donovan Edwards to the boundary side, they know damn well there's a good chance you could be releasing him, right? Could be releasing him in some kind of a route. So they'll make some kind of a call, maybe a cone call or a dog call or something where they can either have the corner come off and take Donovan or have the linebacker take Donovan with help. Mm-hmm. Do you see what I'm saying? So he's got all these are checked. A lot of these are checked on the line of scrimmage. They'll see where you are and then make the call accordingly. Okay. So the primary coverage really for them is their base quarters with all the bells and whistles within the cover 7. Okay, that's what and then the other starting point coverage is cover 3 match. Now that's a lot, and if I went into all of it, there ain't enough time in the world for me to explain every little deal here. We need a
Right.
7-volume clinic tape to go over all the stuff. But believe me, when we played them, and I studied the hell out of this stuff now just to see how they were playing certain routes, how they would play a drive route, how they would play a shallow cross, how they would play this. And the thing I think, and we'll get into the ways to beat it, but they're really good, Sam, if you just run conventional stuff at them, stuff that is not, basic smash routes. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The curl flats, they defend those because that's the strength of their coverage. But if you do some unconventional stuff, and again, I'm going to talk about what other people have done and what some of the vulnerabilities might be, it's a little tougher on them. They got to now figure out all those calls. You keep moving people around, which Michigan's good at. They move dudes around all the time where you're not sure exactly who's doing what. They play with multiple tight ends, which I don't think he's crazy about either, because you got to defend run. All this stuff's cute, but you got to defend run too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And where they've gotten trouble, Auburn rushed for, I think, over 300 yards on them. Georgia rushed the ball pretty good on them. So you got some deals there that make it a little harder on them. So, but that is in essence. And remember, one other thing before I move on is if you get to third down, now you get to what Nick calls sub package. Means now the extra DB is going to come in the game, and you're going to have a bunch of defensive ends rushing. Okay, they'll put Braswell and Turner in together, number 41, number 15. They'll be in, so they have all good pass rushers in there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then maybe Caleb Downs will move into the box almost as a linebacker, But it's totally a pass defense situation. They can play all their same coverages, but there's a tendency to want to pressure more and play some man-to-man. They're not a big zero team. They're not a big – he's got it. It's but he's not a big zero team. So that's kind of a little bit of a blueprint. I mean, it's about I gave you a minuscule assessment of a really a very large package.
You get in a nutshell in the last 5 minutes, you get why their guys are so pro ready. He's coaching a pro scheme.
Yeah,
he's coaching a pro scheme. Now it's not just talent. He's not just throwing dudes out there and saying we're just gonna match up. No, this is a very intricate, very detailed defense. But to your point, Alan, you got to it at the end, kind of leading into my question. Hit him in the mouth. That's what's different to me about watching this Bama team is you can hit them in the mouth. And absolutely. The teams that you talked about hit them in the mouth.
Absolutely. They could match up. You know what I mean? Auburn, who didn't have the greatest year, you couldn't tell it from that game, Sam. They looked like a 10-win team in that game. I mean, they were hitting them in the mouth. They're running a counter. They're running the stretch play. They're running stuff that Alabama's not handling well. But if you match, which I believe that Michigan does, the matchups are good in this game. We know where they're good, and they probably know where Michigan's good, but it's not a mismatch. It's not like they're playing Vanderbilt, okay? This is a different deal, and you just need to have some creative schemes and then maybe just some stuff you do well every so often. Let's just, like you say, hit them in the mouth, and let's get them where they got to play our smash mouth stuff, and they got to play our more finesse stuff.
Yeah, man. I hope, and we'll get to this, that we see the reemergence of the play action passing game, because this you run the football like Michigan can run it. This is how you throw the football. I mean, I got my Lions up in the back. My Lions, I got them up because I think how they attack teams is how Michigan has to attack Bama. Michigan, the Lions are the number 3 rush offense in the National Football League. Top 2 rush offenses both have mobile quarterbacks. You got Baltimore, you got Justin Fields. This team runs the rock. All the base runs that we talk about with Michigan, they run. And they are a heavy play action passing team, Al. And this, to me, a recipe when you got 2 NFL, you got NFL across the secondary. They can match up with you. I know you said you like the matchups. I like the tight end matchups specifically. But I like all the matchups when they got to think run. When you set them up, like I think Michigan can set them up, I think there's some shots down the field against this defense that can be had if Michigan establishes the run.
No doubt. If they're forced to play run, it's a completely different dynamic on the back end. They can have all the answers to your routes and such, but now what you're doing is you can cancel their second level defense with good play action that forces them to rally back to make all those cover 7 adjustments and route recognition stuff. It's harder. Straight drop back pass, a little easier to see what's going on. But when you've got to play run and your run is effective enough to get them a little off balance, it's a completely different dynamic to the defense. And I think most guys would tell you that.
Okay, so Al, let's get in. We will be getting into questions for the people from you guys, the specifics that you have for Al Borges. But let's stick with the broad brush. When you look at the Bama defense, what would you say is the strength of the Tide and what they bring to the table?
Yeah, back end is the strength. The back end is the strength, but right behind it is their pass rush with Dallas Turner and the other and company. It isn't just him, but he's a pain in the butt. Okay, now they're gonna figure out a way to kind of neutralize him so it's not an improv play every time you draw back. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Not that you're gonna have to do some of that too, because you're gonna have to do some of that because the teams that are moving the ball on them, the quarterback's making some plays in some situations. Okay, so that's part of it, but that can't be. If that's your plan, you got no plan because they've got to figure out a way to neutralize that. But I think he's good. But the back end, the 2 corners, Arnold and Kool-Aid, are very good players, and I think Kool-Aid's probably a little better than Arnold, but Arnold's not bad. He's going to go high in the draft. But they tend to throw the ball, Georgia did anyway, more at Arnold than they did Kool-Aid. Okay, so that's a strength. Downs is a young player, not experienced but talented, and like I say, became as the season evolved more of a box player, coming down and roll up, because I don't see him as one of their better cover guys. Malachi Moore, number 13, is always been a solid player, but I would not put in the upper rung of the secondary players, but a good player, good solid player. Can play nickel, can do those kinds of things. Key, the other safety, good solid player. Not easy to deal with, but solid. There are no weaknesses, Sam, really in their secondary, and they are especially strong on the corners, which Alabama seems like they always are. Right. In the front, again, the better linebacker is Lawson, 32. He usually plays to the strong side, the Mike linebacker. They play a couple different guys at will that kind of play evenly, play about the same. But Lawson's in there pretty much all the time, and he's getting guys lined up. He's doing all the stuff that guy does. And then inside there, again, their front is salty, but they've been better at that position. I'll say that they're not bad. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying, but they've been better at that position. So that gives you some opportunities to run the football. Their ends are good. Their defensive tackles are solid. Their linebackers are solid. The back end is good. So from a perspective, that's an overall assessment. If I went over every single player, I've looked at all of them. First thing I did is looked at personnel. How good were they? And then I went back and looked at scheme. So
all right. So now let's talk vulnerabilities. We kind of talked about it. Teams have been able to run the football on them. So when you look at Michigan specifically, are there run concepts, or what's in their run menu, or what's in their offensive arsenal that you think would be particularly successful against Alabama? And then we can sort of get over into matchups as well. What are the specific matchups that you think favor Michigan here?
Let's start basically from presentation. How are we going to present ourselves to their defense? And the teams that are the most successful against Alabama, and I'm 100% sure of this, I'm not even a little sure, and I'm not usually this absolute, but I am, is you better motion people and you better do a little shifting. Motioning is how they get them. I mean, Georgia, Auburn, Texas, all motioning virtually every single play, or shifting someone every single play. Why? Because a team that sits there in a basic static formation allows them to put their cleats in the ground and attack you with having to make any adjustments on the run. They can check their set. They can check their 7 coverage completely with comfort, knowing that no one's going to change positions, and we can sick them. You understand what I'm saying? So motion and shifts, those types of things, every team that has success against them doesn't do it a little bit, Sam. They do it damn near every single play. You watch Georgia, you watch Texas, and you watch Auburn, and it's all the same thing. Okay, now other teams try it, but they don't match up. You know what I'm saying? Like those 3 teams do. So it may not be as good. Number two, misdirection. If you allow the Alabama defense to flow without discretion to the ball, there's going to be a lot of team defensive meetings on the ball. They're going to all be there. But if they're caught for some reason with indecisiveness, where the ball starts one way and goes the other way, it slows down their pursuit and tends to open up receivers. Okay? So motion and misdirection, to me, are your starting point for your game plan. You do what you have to get their cleats out of the ground. Do you understand? Because if those cleats are in the ground on the snap of the ball, they're going to be tough to deal with. Okay? Number 3, 3-by-1 looks. Anytime you can get 3 to one side, 1 to the other side, maybe with an offset back weak, they are less effective in 3-by-1 than they are in basic balanced 2-by-2 looks or 2-back formations. I just think that is the best way to get at them. They have all the adjustments. It's not like they don't know what they're doing, but they, to me, are less effective in 3-by-1 looks than they are in other stuff. And a big thing, too, is the use of the tight ends on the inside safeties. This showed up in the Georgia game a couple times for big plays, okay? And again, mix all this thinking, Sam, misdirection, shifts, motion, blah, 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 and attack the inside safeties with people like Colston Loveland, A.J. Barner. These things showed up in games where there were players covering them that you had a better chance to get them open against them than you did against trying to go on Kool-Aid or Arnold. You understand what I'm saying? So all these things were prevalent in plans, okay? Georgia was not afraid to work on Arnold, particularly into the boundary side, just on simple stop hooks, stop turn routes where they'd load the formation of the field, get him in a certain coverage, and then just try and work on Arnold. Now, Georgia's got a guy that can beat Arnold, and Arnold can cover him too. But that's the type of thing. I think they were obviously more comfortable attacking him than they were Kool-Aid. So that showed up. Naked bootlegs. Now you got to understand, there may be an ugly one or two in there, but Georgia started the game with a naked, and nobody covered the guy in a flat. And again, what was it? It was with some kind of emotion, fly action, blah, 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 getting the cleats out of the ground, people shifting, moving, the ball comes out, and all of a sudden nobody's got the guy in the flat. So the adjustments were made, but they were made late. So you couldn't say, oh, here comes the play. Here's the thing, Sam. You can't let them say, oh, they're lined up in a 3-1. Here comes this, this, and this. You got to say, this is what they're saying on the snap of the ball. Oh, check three. Oh, you got two, blah, blah, blah. Tough call, dog call. They're making all their calls to change their defense rather than looking at you to see what's coming. I think that's really important, okay? They got hurt by Auburn with a split stretch play. Now, I know that's not a big play for Michigan, but it hurt them.
Hey, you got some time to work on that, right? Ohio State tried to split stretch Michigan to death.
They can run a stretch play, okay?
Right.
And they can run a stretch play, and it may hit once for big, which it did against Auburn. Auburn hit a big one for a long game. I don't know that they're a good stretch team, but they hit a split stretch with motion, and he came out, and it came out big. You may run 3 more, and they may not gain an inch, and that play may be worth it just because of that one, okay? So those are things. Reverses, U-turn reverse. They had a U-turn reverse, Georgia. It was open, and they fumbled the ball. But if you look at it, it was there. Yeah. It was there. They fumbled the ball, okay? They ran the old give bluff play off a bunch, where you bunch them all up, you fake the split zone, and the guy bluffs him, and you hand him the reverse. We've seen Michigan do that play. That's not, and that hit on him. That was, I believe, Auburn too. So they've got, again, misdirection. Start one direction, get the other direction, go the other direction, okay? Get on the goal line. They scored on 2 duos. Okay, I believe it was Georgia. Scored on 2 duos and a G lead. Hey, that's familiar, huh?
Very familiar.
We know those plays, all right? Best screens. They're good at playing screen passes. They always have been. But tunnel screens, not as much, okay? The tunnel screens, maybe you're faking a little swing route and bringing the receiver back inside, trying to get their attention one way and then throw it the other way. It showed some vulnerability there. And the one thing about the shot game, okay, let's talk about the shot game. There are some shots on the video, okay, where you'll hit some, but the quarterback has got to be very aware that if the shot isn't there, know your check down. because they're going to haul ass out of there as soon as they think you haven't given the ball back. They're coached well on how to play action passes. They're not always defended. There are sometimes holes in there, but if in fact they recover, the quarterback's got to be ready to lower his eyes and check the ball down and take that little, they may not get a whole cake, but they may get a little crumb of a 5-yard gain because they got some kids that are really good with the ball under their arm on checkdown. So that's got to be your thinking. But all those things combined, the base Michigan run game is good, but it's got to be like it's been. Move people around, make them defend all the gaps, motion people through, fake fly sweeps. And now let's talk last about the quarterback, okay? Because the quarterback is a big part of it too. Now, Alabama takes a lot of pride in their ability to defend quarterback runs. But that being said, that doesn't matter if you've got other presentations that can get your quarterback open, okay? For example, a play that's worked against him more than once is the old counter play or it's actually the read play on the end with a counter play going back the other direction with the quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. They're OTing this way with the quarterback counter this way, but they're reading the guy to see when the tackle pulls, does he chase him or does he put himself out of position? They'll hand the ball to the back, go around the edge. If the tackle doesn't go, the quarterback will pull the ball and run the counter. Now, Auburn also did the same thing with the stretch play, Sam. They checked the stretch plays to the back, didn't have it, so pull the ball out, and the quarterback ran the ball for a huge gain the other direction. A lot of option running with the quarterback. And by option, meaning not option play, but the ability to pull or hand the ball off based on the reaction of the defense. Again, something that really is in the Michigan wheelhouse, assuming the quarterback is healthy. Quarterback draw. Auburn killed them with quarterback draws.
That's not really. You don't see Michigan do when they run them. They don't really run them up in between the tackles.
They haven't been as good at that play, but I promise you this: J.J. McCarthy healthy is a better runner than Peyton Thorne, and Peyton Thorne was running through there like, it was ridiculous. So I think that can be a plan, is find a way, because they did not defend that play very well. Remember, Sam, in a lot of these match zones, the light underneath coverage is chasing people with their back to the quarterback. Do you understand? Because once they see who they got, it becomes man-to-man coverage. Well, as soon as a pass rush establishes itself, if there's only 4 gaps being attacked, there's a hole in there somewhere for the quarterback. And you got a quarterback, again, preface, if healthy, can really take advantage of that.
So coach him real quick, Al. Let's do this for a second, because you get your pre-snap read, you see man to man, or you see zone. You got to confirm it. But these guys with the match concepts, they present zone and then it turns to man to man. So give me how you coach him on. All right, there are going to be some running, because anytime I see a lot of man to man, I'm telling my quarterback, man, you can run for days against this team. But Alabama kind of makes it a little tricky. So how do you coach them on that?
Well, what you do is, if you're talking about a pass play, okay, you teach him all the coverages, how they work, right? Which you do every week. That's not news, okay? What your progression is and what the opportunities that could present themselves when the coverage defines itself, right? We know there's going to be a ton of match. We know that, which is going to be not going to mean everybody's in man-to-man. They're freeing each other up as soon as they cancel receivers. That's the way you play match. But so often, guys get turned away from the quarterback. So as you take your drop, progress your reads, push the pocket, and see the holes develop, because they're going to cover you sometimes, Sam. They're good at it now. They're going to cover you sometimes. That's not always the bad news. Sometimes that's the good news, because you got a really good ball carrier with a ball in his hands, and that being their quarterback. So they got that dimension that you need to beat Alabama. If you were just a pure drop back passer with no threat of nothing other than just throwing the ball, I'm not saying you can't beat them, but you got to play really, really good. But you got that guy that can make that third play. That slows people down. And what happens when they play cover 1 in their sub package, they can't just rush 5 every time, Sam, because nobody's ratting the quarterback. If you don't rat the quarterback, you know what can happen, right? Everybody's back turned. There he goes, runs again. So do you tell him just take off and run? No, you progress the reads, Progressive reads as best you can based on the protection, but don't be afraid to take off if you see holes in the defense.
So we are already getting a lot of comments. And folks, I'm going to get to your questions here coming up. But a couple of people said, oh, well, you're not running draw with can you bring in Orgy to run draw? But I think you kind of forecasting a little bit, aren't you? Can you afford to bring in a guy they know who's is going to run, unless you're going to say, hey, Orgy, you're going to throw one in this game? Would you do that?
There's the key. See, now he's going to load. He's going to know when Orgy's in the game what he's going to do. Now Michigan, if I know them, they'll create another play for Orgy. It won't be that same old counter every time or something. But the bottom line is they're going to load up more every time he's in. There's going to be an alert that he's in the game. Somebody's going to say. So the perfect thing to do is do something that they haven't seen. Okay, simulate a counterplay. He can throw a pass. I've seen him, Sam. He can throw a pass. Okay, do something that will make them softer to the things that you want to do with him. Really. Okay, so if they know this time, maybe the first time you throw a pass, they go, well, every time he comes in, he's not going to run the ball. Well, that makes it easier to run the ball. Okay, so I could see a 4 or 5 play package for him that could be really, really good. But it's got to be something. If it's what he's done before, it's got to be camouflaged so that they don't know where it's coming from. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm thinking back to last year in the TCU game, and so we went over the things that could really work against the team. You know, attack the perimeter with the run game, attack the perimeter, get the edge with the run game. It took them a minute because they came out, they hit them with that ISO out the gate, and it's like, oh, well, we can run, we can do what we want to do against this squad. And then as the first half unfolded, realized that running up the middle against these guys is a trap. And Michigan started hitting the perimeter, even with plays that aren't necessarily designed to hit the perimeter, like counters, for instance, that they were doing. When you watch this team, you went over the things that you said, okay, this could work. This could work. Could really see draws, QB runs, some different things. I want to know about a couple of matchups. Number one, Donovan Edwards. Really feels like if you're talking about attacking safeties and linebackers, that he could be a chess piece in that game, along with your tight ends. And then I wonder about if you got 2 NFL corners, can you play the matchup game? You talk about motions and shifts. Would you be trying to get, like, for instance, a Roman Wilson lined up on the same? Maybe you line him up at a slot, or you motion him inside, and you're trying to play the matchup game with him, because I think he's their most dynamic receiver. So are you thinking of doing things like that in this game?
If I would do that, I would not let him do that with sub package on the field. Okay. So in other words, get Roman. If you want to get Roman in a slot in some way, shape, or form, keep your 12 personnel on the field with 2 tights and all that, where he's still got to feel he's got to defend run. And there's more of a likelihood, and this is not absolute, but there's more of a likelihood that you may get a good match with a linebacker, or more often a safety on Roman. You know what I mean? Because if you just line him up in the slot with 3 wides in the field, they're going to go to sub, and they're going to have somebody, a better cover guy. So this is an advantage Michigan has. This is why I say this matchup's good, Sam, is Michigan can damn near do anything they want out of any group they want. And not many teams can do that. I mean, when they get into, most teams get into third down, boom, in come the 3 wide receivers, in come the 4 wide receivers, and here in comes the subgroup, right? So all the you may win, you may lose, but you really haven't gained the kind of advantage you'd like, that if you could have the type of good receivers in the game versus lesser defenders. That's what you really want, particularly with Michigan's tight ends, because they're unique.
Yeah, and that's not any inside intel. I'm trying to anticipate some things that they might do. I think it's probably more likely that they do some things with Donovan. I feel like we haven't seen everything that they have out of the Donovan Blake package.
Well, here's the deal again with that, Sam. If you're going to use Donovan, not that you don't want to use him on third down, you may, but if you want to get him the ball in an early down in maybe a 22 personnel group. You got 2 tights on the field where they're not going to anticipate that. And the personnel is going to be lesser covering Donovan. So that if you really want the big plays, I'm saying the big plays, take them early against their base personnel when your matchups with your inside players are going to be a little bit better.
I gotcha. All right, folks. It's time to start getting to the questions. Want to remind you, we are not going to be doing a film study next week. That's the hope. If we're doing a film study next week, things didn't go well. Right, right. And I'm back in Ann Arbor and in the studio.
Well, we don't want to
breaking
talk
things
about
down.
that, son. We won't even
Right.
talk about that, okay?
I don't want to do that. I want to go
No,
right from
no.
Pasadena to Houston. And if that's the case, we'll just come right back with a breakdown and then we'll get to the film studies after the national championship game. If you want to help fund the film studies, I'm putting them in the chat right now. There's a fund the film study PayPal with Al Borges. So we can keep these things going into the new year, into the national championship game, into next season. That is the plan. And so you can help that by hitting that link in the description, hitting that link in the comment section. I just dropped it in the chat as well. You can help fund the film study with Al Borges. With that, folks, if you have questions for Al, start putting them in the chat right now. I missed a lot early in the sequence. So if you ask a question earlier, just go ahead and repeat it right now, and I'll start getting the questions from this point on for Gorgeous Borges in this matchup. All right, so let's start off first with one from Fred Paulson. Fred says, how much do you think Michigan needs to run JJ in this game to keep them honest? Would this be good to have? Would this be a good one to have to bust out some trick plays? And please, no Philly special on the goal line, though.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Don't knock Philly special. That was an
Right.
assignment there. Yeah, that was an assignment there. That's a good play now. I'm not sure it's good for this team but that just wasn't run right. I think at the end of the day, because there's no tomorrow, Sam, it's player go home, you know what I mean? Keep playing or go home. I think 8 to 10 runs would be good. Closer to 10 than 8 probably. Because you got to figure he's going to, with their pass rush, he's going to have to scramble probably, 4 to 5 times in the game anyway. But good 8 to 10, if necessary in this game. But yes, I do think a healthy J.J. McCarthy is critical to helping win this football game.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's go back to the questions. Says this one, Carlos Vick. We've been kind of vanilla on the play calls the last few games. Do you think we open it up a little more in this game?
No doubt. Yeah. You do. No, you're not going to throw 2 passes against Alabama in the second half and win. This has got to be an empty the drawer proposition here, Sam. You got it all, these next 2 games. Well, if you got it, don't save it. So, yeah.
I just think that not Michigan fans aren't guilty of this. Certainly the national media who hasn't watched Michigan a lot. They say JJ struggled against Penn State. No, he didn't. No. They changed the game plan against Penn State. Now, he did struggle after that. Why did he struggle in the game after that? The man was hurt.
Yeah.
The man was hurt. That was the issue. So this is, to me, a health-dependent kind of thing. If JJ's healthy, I mean, man, Al, I think they can present all kind of problems to this Alabama defense.
They've done every game before those, right? Every game before those games came the Penn State game. So, assuming he's in one piece, I would just do what you do and know that he's going to be reliable in the run game and reliable in the improv. And don't look back. If he gets hurt, or whatever happens. That's football. But just if you got it, empty it. Okay, let him see it.
So Donovan, you wheel him, you Texas him, what do you do? What do you do with him?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, based on formation, motion, all that stuff, and down in distance, knowing if you get subgroups, like I mentioned before, there's so many things you can do with Donovan. You draw it on the board, he can do it. You can line him up there at wide receiver, Sam, and run him on a post if you want to. He can do that. But all the stuff they've done in the past, the rail routes, the wheels, the option routes, the Texas, all that stuff creates issues for their inside coverage. That's a good matchup. Make them play it. If they play it, God bless them, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, let's go back to the questions. Ferris Khan says, Al, I know this is about defense. And we got the defensive breakdown with Vance Bedford coming up here in about 30 minutes. So Ferris, hang out, and Vance will get to this question too. He says, Al, I know this is about defense, but do you think the 2 spies on Milroe was a fatal mistake for Georgia?
You can't afford 2 spies. You gotta get some rush. You gotta get some rush. If you spy him with one guy, that's pushing the issue. But I've always thought spies were kind of overrated. But they can help. And don't get me wrong, they can help. But I sure as hell wouldn't spy him with 2 guys. No, I get after his ass, make him break the pocket, chase him down. I do what you did for 12 games, 13 games. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's get back to more questions with Gorgeous Borges. Shadyville03, he says, you don't want a rotation with offensive linemen. There's a problem if you're rotating. There have been a lot of questions about rotating offensive linemen in this game. I mean, how would you do it, Al, given obviously Zach's out? You played Trente at right tackle and you slid Carson Barnhart inside. There's some different variations that you can do in there where you play Carson at tackle along with Ladarius, or you got Miles Hinton that you could throw in there as well. There are different things that you could do. What would you do? Would you be prone to rotating offensive line?
No. I played with the guys they played with the last game and just know where your issues are with regard to matchups and try and help them, particularly in passing situations. I think they're fine in a run, but passing situations, if it takes turns, chips, whatever, then you do what you got to make sure that kid gets a look at his reads.
I think Trente was taking some slack he shouldn't have, some flack he shouldn't have taken.
Trente's fine. Hey, these guys beat good players. You can't worry about that. You just got to have a plan so that they're not dominating the game from defensive end. You know what I mean? The defensive ends get, and there's ways to help guys, whether it be lining tight ends up over there, whether it be chipping backs, whether it be turning protections. There's ways to help guys to where you're not allowed, to dominate the game with a 4-man pass rush because one player can't block a certain guy. There's 5 of you to block them. There's 4 of them to rush unless they blitz, right? So if they're going to rush 4, which they do most of the time, you've got an extra blocker, not to mention a back. So there's ways to help them. You just got to make sure that they can't do that. They can't take the game over as a defensive end.
Yeah, Seth Boyd says JJ needs a game like he had against TCU minus the 2 interceptions. Absolutely.
God bless you. I think that's a great idea. That'll work. I'll take that and run. Because he was phenomenal outside the interceptions. The problem is
he was.
You can't ignore the interceptions, but yeah, he was really played good.
Yeah, he was on fire, especially once they started attacking TCU in the places where they had shown vulnerabilities. It seemed to open everything up. Play action, play passes now. Play passes were huge in that game.
Play passes, Sam, absolutely. They were huge, and I just hope we see some of that. But I just want to see the kid healthy. If the kid's healthy, they give him a chance. I think he's gonna. And I say by that I mean get a chance to see his reads, get back and see his reads at least in part. He'll improv enough to raise enough hell to put some points on the board. I believe that.
So follow up from Seth Floyd. He says, "How will the tight ends be used in this game, Al? We have 2 really good ones, but people have been saying, hey, Michigan might not be able to throw to their tight ends as much. You might need to use them in more help scenarios against the pass rush. How do you think they'll be utilized?"
Well, and that would be one way. They got 3 of them or 4 of them. They don't all have to go out for a pass, right, Sam? Mm-hmm. And they're not afraid to put them in the game. But they got to be useful, man. I mean, they got to be able to contribute in some way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? Whether it be the passing game or pass protection, in some way they add something that Alabama just doesn't see a ton of. Now Georgia does some. It's not like they never see it, but it's not something they prefer to see. But you got to know how to use them and I think that your matchups, again, like I say, are best inside there where those safeties and linebackers are.
All right. Let's get back to the questions that they're coming through like wildfire right now. All right. See, I don't agree with this. I don't like having, this is from Shadyville 03. I don't like having JJ having to read the defense on run plays. He makes the wrong read too often. I don't agree with that at all, Al. I mean, he's had a couple of flubs, but not to the point where I'm like, I don't want him to do it.
No, they're going to miss one here and there, but I've graded that kid all year. He's missed a read or 2. I mean, I'm not saying he's been perfect, but goodness gracious, not enough to cancel those plays. Because I'll let him miss a few if he'll turn and run for, which he's done, right? He's done. Mm-hmm. if it, every play isn't going to be perfect, and every assessment of every play, because there may be times he thinks he's missing reads when he's not missing reads. Okay, because I hear sometimes guys, oh, he should have kept that. Oh, he should have played. Wait a minute. You watch,
Listen, man.
slow it down, read it, watch all 22, and the guy's staring right at him, looking, but he'll hand the ball off, and then some guy will go chasing it, and they'll think you should have pulled it. That's not always necessarily true. And I don't know if that's the case here, but I'm just saying that you cannot eliminate what could be a very, very big part of your run game just because you're concerned he's going to miss reads because he hasn't missed enough to warrant that.
Yeah, so I can't. Maybe you can pinpoint this out on what the biggest difference is. Is it Ryan Hayes and Olu and Schoonmaker? Let's not forget Luke Schoonmaker, who was an outstanding blocking tight end.
He did, yeah, he was.
What I can't pinpoint is the difference going from those guys to who they have now, who are still really, really good guys, but maybe they aren't as strong run blockers as the former guys. Or our team's just playing Michigan better, because to me, what opened up the run game, Shadyville, was when they started putting reads on plays for JJ. It wasn't them just blowing the doors down off of teams. It was injecting more JJ into the run game to open it up in the first place.
Yeah. No, there's no doubt. You got to remember, I think Hayes was a 2-year starter, right?
Right.
Hayes played next to Keegan for 2 years. They're pretty familiar with each other, and that was big. Olu was the best center in the country, right? Maybe the best lineman in the country. Who knows? I mean, that's two pretty big entities within your offensive line that are no longer there that may have been, may have made a big difference. That coupled, I don't think the backs are winning as many
that's true.
Loaded box opportunities as they have in the past. And people have seen more what Michigan does. So, all of the above has led to a decline in the run game to a degree. But the run game has not been stopped, okay? It's just not rushing for 250 yards a game, all right? So I don't know that that's a liability. I just don't think their run game – I think their run game's still pretty damn good. And I still think they can do the things they want to do off the run game because they're getting respect from the run game. So I would not panic on that one. I would, again, get McCarthy more involved in the run game. Not necessarily read plays, yes, but other plays too, like I say, draws and maybe horn plays or pin and pulls the quarterback like they did before. You got too many things. You got to use that kid in this game. I mean, if you don't use him, it's like having an ashtray on a motorcycle, Sam. It doesn't help too much. I mean,
just rewind the tape to the beginning of the season. Now, Michigan they were trying to run outside. They were figuring out different avenues to counter what teams were doing to blow up their run game. The duo was taken off the board for weeks, for the most part, as far as effectiveness was concerned. And they were trying to work outside zone. They were trying to get the different perimeter run plays. And to come to find out, they put a read on a duo, and it was like, eureka, hallelujah, unbelievable. This is our best perimeter run play, JJ McCarthy. And oh, by the way, it opens up everything else because now people got to worry about JJ keeping the football. That was the elixir, if you will, until, of course, he got hurt a little bit later in the season and he couldn't run the football as much anymore. But I got to believe against this team, like you said, there's no tomorrow, so to speak. That's absolutely on the table in this game.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's got to be. I mean, I watched a game. I went to a game, the bowl game yesterday. Bowling Green played Minnesota. Minnesota didn't throw. They didn't throw the ball at all in the second half. You know what they ran, Sam? Duo plays and duo keeps. That's what they did. They pulled the ball. They'd run duo, run a little stretch play, duo, run a little stretch play, and then duo keep the ball. And Bowling Green just couldn't hold up inside. And now that they're not Alabama, that's not the same game and all that. But you can see how the conflicting schemes can be a problem for the defense. I don't care who they are. We're
gonna see a bluff in this game. You mark my words. That's not even any inside intel. I'm just telling you. I don't care. It could just be a basic bluff run. They could bluff a duo. They're going to do something where JJ is going to have the ball on the perimeter on the bluff. It's happening now.
Understand, Alabama, although not a spill team, which really you like them bluffs. I love spill teams on bluff. They are a squeeze team. They take almost every counter play on with their inside arm. They don't wrong arm or cross arm or spill to stop the inside runs, whether they're powers or I haven't seen one anyway. If they got it, they don't do it much because I haven't seen it. But they squeeze, and squeezing conflicts the end, because you got to stop that counter because everybody's running counters, right? I mean, that's every tape I see. Counterplay shows up, so that's always subjects you to being a little more vulnerable anytime the quarterback is going to pull the ball in a bluff. So,
all right, so let's get back to it. Try to get some more questions, many questions as we can in this last 15 minutes. Cameron Deckling says, can we discuss the Trente Jones scenario? I have a feeling he's our weakest link at tackle. Him on an island against pass rushers. What's your opinion on his ability to hold up?
I think he'll do fine. I just think you have to have a plan if he doesn't. You understand? I think Trente has not shown a consistent weakness to pass rush. And there's anecdotal stuff. I mean, hell, Ladarius has stuff.
Well, you remember Joe?
Look here, you can't block him. But
you remember in the Maryland game, they had the corner blitz, and Klatt said it was Trente, and it wasn't Trente.
It wasn't Trente. That was a missed pickup from the backfield. But that's one. I guess you could draw that conclusion because it's misinformation. But I'm just talking about watching the matchup down in and down out. I watch Trente every time they pass protect. My eyes go right to right tackle because I want to see if that's. And I just haven't seen, and understand this. You're going to get beat sometimes, okay? You're not going to block them every time, okay? But when it's a habitual problem, you either got to take him out and put somebody else in, or you got to cover him with somebody chipping, somebody turning, somebody doing something, presenting their tight end to that side, whatever it takes to help the kid if you're going to keep him in a game. But Trente hasn't shown to this point anyway, and again, they haven't thrown a ton of passes since Trente's been playing, but when they have, he hasn't shown a consistent inability to block edge rushers. Who knows? That could show up. Who knows? But if he does, just have a plan. That's all I'm going to say. Or come in with a plan. You start it from the get. You can do that too.
I got a lot of Bama fans in here today.
There's a lot
of Bama fans in here saying that. Well, first of all, Bama is getting shortchanged by no one. You watch the national media, and they're like, Michigan is lucky. You're going to be lucky to be in this game. The team that's receiving all the skepticism and doubt is Michigan, not Bama. So I don't know where all this Bama kind of give us some respect vibe in this chat is coming from.
They have a lot of confidence in their football team. Okay, you understand that? I wrote this in my book when I wrote my book, having competed against it. They got a lot of, and they love their team, and they are very loyal, and they'll say it whether it's true or not. They are very loyal to their team, and I respect that to a degree. I really do. I'm never going to be mistaken as an Alabama fan by any means, but I do love their passion.
Well, yeah, I respect them. I think Nick is the best coach going, but they did get beat this year. Yeah. And they barely beat Auburn. I mean,
they should have lost to Auburn. There's no way on 4th and 31 you should lose a game. But they found a way to do it. God bless them.
Yeah, let's not act like this team has no vulnerabilities. Teams have run the football on them, and if Michigan can establish the run there and get their play action passing in, because that has been a great mystery, Al. Why we haven't seen any play action passing the last few weeks for the most part. I mean, 2 plays against. I think it was 2 plays against Maryland.
One against Iowa. I know that. I'm not sure. That's mystified me a little bit too, but I got a feeling you're going to get them in this game. And I said that against Iowa too, and I was wrong. But they've done it. It's not like it has been something absent from their offense the entire season. It is anything but. But I have to believe, Sam, it's got something to do with McCarthy holding the ball longer, and on play passes, whether you like it or not, if you want a chunk of offense, a chunk of yardage, you got to hold the ball a little longer. And that puts the quarterback at risk. And that may be one of the reasons they don't. I don't know. But I just think in this game, it's got to be part of it. It's been part of everybody else's approach, and that it's been successful against them. So,
yeah. Flea Flicker, Al. What did you say? Play action on steroids?
Play action on steroids, baby. Nothing wrong with a little flea flicker action. I like that stuff, Sam. That's good stuff, man, and it's fun to watch. When it works, you're the smartest sucker in the world, and when it doesn't, it's like that Philly special, man. Don't run the Philly special. Whatever you do, that play doesn't well. got to kind of know everything
Yeah.
about it before you throw it out of the playbook. Just kind of realize why.
Yeah. If you watched us, you know that one wasn't as much the call as it was. It was they saw it coming. It's just you had a guy running the wrong way on the play.
Yeah.
Is what happened. So
you can't judge a play based on a missed assignment. You'll never run any play because you coach long enough, they're going to miss an assignment on every play at one time or another.
Yeah.
So you gotta kind of take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, and we had criticisms of some of the play calling in that game, but that wasn't necessarily one of them.
No.
Michigan Real Talk wants to know what tendencies does Michigan need to break against this Bama team, e.g., 44 as misdirection instead of lead as backers key on the H back. What specifics would you use?
Well, this is again watching Alabama. Any action where you got backs going in different directions, for example, on split zones or counter plays where the action looks one way, but the play's really going the other way, but maybe the quarterback will pull it the original way. You know what I'm saying? So you've got really almost a triple threat. Anything that starts one way, goes the other way, but could really go either way. Those types of things mesmerize the defense because they got to really read their keys, and sometimes their keys lie to them because there could be two guys pulling, but the ball's going the other way because they got maybe a fly action going or a guy faking a switch. You don't know, but those are the kind of things that neutralize and split the defense in half so they're conflicted. That's the best thing against teams like this that pursue so well and are so disciplined with their keys.
Split zone now, but that's why I said a bluff. That's why I said a bluff.
Bluff's exactly what I'm talking about. Split zone going one way, quarterback going the other direction, back going one way, the other back going the other direction, could be handed off, could be pulled. Do you understand what I'm saying? Just four different deals going there for the defense, and you can stop the play, but there's plays you'd rather see, okay? Particularly the quarterback in one.
All right, let's David Mendenhall. This is a great one. He said Donovan can also be a great decoy.
Absolutely.
In this context.
He has to be. This is something I want to talk about that just a second. He has to be because he can be every bit as valuable to you by making the defense thinking the ball's going to him and it's actually going to somebody else. Anytime you have a guy that you're trying to focus on in your game plan, okay, we're going to make sure Donovan touches the ball 6 times, 7 times in this in different situations. There's got to be one extra play, maybe 2, where we're creating the illusion of Donovan catching the ball and then throwing it to somebody else. For example, maybe what you do, and I saw this play run by Georgia, is put Donovan in the backfield and swing him out of the backfield, and they flag a swing to him, and bring a tunnel screen back the other direction, where everybody went blowing out on Donovan on the swing pass, and the tunnel came right back the other direction, and everybody vacated the middle of the defense.
You know,
those types of things.
This second time you mentioned tunnel screen. Now, Michigan isn't a big screen team. I think that is the Samaj the only tunnel screen of the. I'm trying to think of how many tunnel screens they've run this year.
There's been a couple, but that screen works in situations like that. What we're talking about there, it works. They have the play. You know what I mean? It's not. It won't be another ad. You know, an ad for just the game, even though they really have time to do that too. You know, they have the play. So find a way to get to the play, but maybe decoy someone that they really have a high focus on because he's in the game. And Donovan is probably the top of that list.
But this is a bowl-like prep scenario for a non-screen team, which you've gone over ad nauseum for a few years now, saying that, you know, people keep asking me, is Michigan going to run screens? Is Michigan going to run screens? You keep telling them no, because it's not something they allocate a lot of practice time for. And you say they need to. That's a play you need a lot of practice time for. But in a bowl prep scenario, well, now you got that. You got that time.
It may be worth throwing a couple screens in there, particularly when but you got the thing about screens and being a big screen guy, because I love the screen pass. You got to study screens and how they play them, because certain teams play certain screens better than other screens. You understand? So, for example, I see no vulnerability to slip screens. If you want to try to slip it back out in the flat, flipping the ball, put a screen, Alabama plays those well. Nobody tries to throw them on them but tunnel screens have showed up. You know what I mean? If they're showed up, and it's more than one time, It may not be a big emphasis to stop. It'll be a play they go over. Don't get me wrong, because they ain't going to miss anything. Okay, they're gonna tell you, but it may not be a play that they show to their defense 10 times during the practice time, so that they're really aware of it. So if you can sneak up on them a little bit sometimes with something they haven't seen as much, in hopes that you can blindside them with it. You know what I mean? And bowl games are notorious for that because you have so much time to prepare.
I told you we got Bama fans in here. I think this is a Bama guy. He says Bama's defense is really good, especially against an offense like Michigan's that wants to fight in a phone booth. Looking at stats is fool's gold, Al Borges.
Well, I'll tell Alpha Dog this right now. That last thing you said is the most accurate thing you said. Looking at stats is fool's gold. You are exactly right, because matchups matter, not stats. Stats can be manipulated, and you can lie with stats forever. God knows I've listened to arguments on stats, and it's matchups. How do they match up? And my response to that is Michigan does match up pretty well with Alabama. And I think that's the biggest part of it. It's the job of Michigan to see to it that they explore all those matchups and exploit what Alabama does on defense. So what he's saying is true, but as much as that is true, there are a couple teams that have run the ball pretty well on them. So we'll see how that holds up. I mean, he may be right at the end of the day, he may be wrong. I don't know.
All right. Here's a very intricate question from David Bresson. Says, with match-heavy defense, can you scheme a play to force them into that man-to-man where you plan to take advantage of that?
He's not going to do anything. You're Nick Saban and Kevin Steele, the defensive coordinator. You are not going to dictate to them what they do. They are going to do what they do, and then make the adjustments based on what you do. Do you understand? So to say, okay, let's line up in this formation because we know we're getting man-to-man, forget about it. They ain't going to do that. They don't play that way. I know them both well, and they ain't going to do that. What you got to do is figure out what they do, what the possibilities are, and try to exploit what you think they're going to do. But don't think just because you line up a certain way they're going to do something, because that don't cut it. You'll be a play behind the whole game if you try to do that.
Absolutely. And so, Al, we've come to the end of this. And so we'll cut right to the nitty gritty. And someone asked this question pretty plainly, so I'll see if I can find it real quick, because it was a little earlier in the session. And they basically said, Al, in your heart of hearts, how do you think this game is going to go?
24-17.
Give me your breakdown.
24-17 Michigan. Alabama is going to have to win the game. The quarterback's going to have to put on a circus show throwing the ball. He's going to have, and he could. He's capable. He's that kind of guy. But I don't believe Alabama will structurally run the ball or pass the ball through Michigan. We're talking all about offense. This game going to be one on defense. They're always won both ways. Don't get me wrong, but the Alabama's going to have to move the ball on Michigan with some improv by the quarterback. If they can get that done, it'll be all right. But I don't believe that that's going to happen to this defense. I think it's going to be harder because of Milroe's skill set, but I still think they'll have answers to what they do. I think they'll score 17 points. I think Michigan will find a way to score 24 and they'll win.
Yeah, there you go. So Ross Bolin was the one. In your heart of hearts, how do you think this game plays out? Who wins? Al Borges says Michigan 24-17. This isn't the last time you see the gorgeous one. He'll be back next week, at least for the breakdown. We hope he's not back for the film study.
No, we don't want a film study, Sam. We'll get there. We'll cream Joe Schmatz another week. Okay. We'll just compile more data. Okay. And then we'll knock him dead. I mean, I look so forward to it, Sam. I really do. I don't look forward to seeing you much. I don't. I have to drink to tolerate you, Sam. But I tell you what, I do look forward to the football fix that we get every week. I saw John Wangler when I went to the bowl game. He says, Al, the film studies are awesome. I said, oh, God, if John Wangler thinks that, Sam, we've arrived.
Hey, man. Hey, a lot of people watch. I just like being back in the groove. I feel like life is getting back to normal a little bit. Want to thank all the folks for your prayers. They were definitely heard and well received and helped uplift us in a time of great need. So, really,
I want to give a shout out to Sam having to deal with what he's had to deal with in the last week or so, and being back here and still able to smile. My brother calls him Smiling Sam. It ain't easy to smile when you go through what Sam's going through. So I think we need to appreciate that too.
I appreciate that, my man. And so, folks, again, Al will be back with the breakdown next week. Hopefully, not the film study. Definitely after the national championship game. If you want to help fund the film studies, there is a link in the description. There is a link in the comment section. There's a link in the chat. You can help us go and grow. Only a couple more days left in the PayPal campaign to fund the film studies into the national championship game. So if you can help out, please do. Until the next time, folks, I'll be seeing you in a couple of minutes over on Vance's Breakdown. We'll see you there. Thanks for watching another edition of the Michigan Football Breakdown Rose Bowl Preview Edition, focused on the offense with Al Borges.
Go Blue.